What if one of the most important presidential elections in American history went the other way? What if, in the darkest days of the Great Depression, the American people rejected Franklin D. Roosevelt's promise of a New Deal and instead gave Herbert Hoover a second chance? This is the alternate history of an America that never saw the New Deal and how it could have changed everything, from the economy and labor rights to international diplomacy and the Second World War. Like and subscribe for more. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell for more history documentaries. Please watch the video till the end, as good interaction would help the performance of the video and the growth of my channel massively. The upset of 1932, a Republican comeback. In our timeline, Herbert Hoover lost the 1932 presidential election to Franklin D. Roosevelt in a landslide. The Great Depression had devastated the economy, and many Americans blamed Hoover for the crisis and the government's inaction. But in this alternate history, Hoover pulls off a stunning upset. What changed? In this reality, a few key factors altered the course of history. A more aggressive federal response by Hoover in late 1931 and early 1932, including an earlier and expanded Reconstruction Finance Corporation, visibly stabilizing key industries and banks. Hoover personally champions a modified version of unemployment relief, distancing himself from the perception that he was cold or out of touch. The Bonus Army March is handled differently. Rather than using military force, Hoover meets with the veterans, earning public sympathy. Roosevelt, meanwhile, suffers a health scare or political misstep that weakens confidence in his leadership. Media messaging shifts. Hoover leverages radio more effectively and paints himself as a man of action, not austerity. The Democratic landslide fizzles, and Hoover wins re-election by a narrow margin, especially holding key northern industrial states and parts of the Midwest. National reaction, shock, protest, and division. The reaction across the country is mixed. The Northeast and business class breathe a sigh of relief, hoping for continued conservative economic policies. But in the South, and among working-class Americans across the Bible Belt and Rust Belt, there's widespread disillusionment. Unemployment remains high, and frustration simmers. Franklin D. Roosevelt returns to New York politics, disappointed but not finished. He becomes a vocal critic of Hoover from 1933 onward, setting up a possible rematch in 1936, if Hoover survives politically. Hoover's second term, the new conservatism. Despite his re-election, Hoover knows the clock is ticking. He reshuffles his cabinet to appear more reformist. Secretary of the Treasury, a progressive Republican sympathetic to public works. Secretary of Labor, possibly someone with ties to organized labor to placate unrest. Rather than a New Deal, Hoover launches what is branded the American Renewal Plan. It includes expanded Reconstruction Finance Corporation to provide more loans to banks and businesses, a national unemployment relief initiative, but one that's more decentralized and reliant on private charities and local governments, a cautious, watered-down version of public works programs. Think a smaller PWA or CCC, focused on infrastructure rather than social welfare. Hoover still resists direct federal intervention in many sectors. The Emergency Banking Act doesn't materialize, nor does anything equivalent to the Glass-Steagall Act. Confidence in the banking system improves, but slowly. Prohibition, social policy, and labor rights. In this timeline, Hoover reluctantly supports the repeal of Prohibition in 1933, responding to overwhelming public demand and the economic boost that legalized alcohol would bring. But he positions it as a states' rights issue and repeal is messier and slower than under Roosevelt. As for labor rights, Hoover remains wary of federal overreach. The National Industrial Recovery Act and the Wagner Act never happen. Labor unions grow more militant, and major strikes erupt in 1934-1935, leading to violent clashes. Hoover's response: call for voluntary cooperation and tamp down with federal force when unrest grows. Social security, unemployment insurance, and broad economic safety nets never materialize under Hoover. Foreign policy, isolation, or engagement. Hoover had long advocated for U.S. isolationism, and in his second term, he continues to steer America away from European entanglements. Roosevelt's good neighbor policy is never implemented. While relations with Latin America remain cordial, there's no concerted effort to improve them. The USSR, still unrecognized, Hoover's strong anti-communist stance prevents any diplomatic outreach in 1933. American-Soviet relations remain frozen. Hoover is deeply reluctant to intervene in growing global tensions. He opposes involvement in Manchuria or the early stages of European fascism. When Hitler rises to power, Hoover downplays the threat, focusing on domestic issues. The election of 1936, Republican Dynasty or Democratic Revival. Despite some economic stabilization, Hoover remains deeply unpopular with working-class voters. Unemployment is still high, and there's little direct relief. The Democrats, re-energized under a different candidate, perhaps still Roosevelt, or someone like Al Smith, sweep back into power in 1936. Charles Curtis, Hoover's VP, lacks the charisma or national support to run a successful campaign. The GOP faces a generational reckoning. Legacy rewritten. The Hoover that might have been. Had Hoover won in 1932, the United States would have followed a far more conservative path during the 1930s. No New Deal. No rapid banking reform. A delayed end to Prohibition. Slower recovery from the Great Depression. A more divided and unrestful labor force. Continued isolationism. Hoover might be remembered not just as the man blamed for the Depression, but as the man who blocked real reform. His second term may have ended with even greater economic disparity and growing unrest, setting the stage for a Roosevelt-style reform movement in the late 1930s or early 1940s. Rather than rehabilitating his reputation, Hoover's legacy could have suffered even more. Conclusion. So, what if Hoover defeated Roosevelt in 1932? America would have looked drastically different, more conservative, more volatile, and possibly slower to recover from the Depression. It's a stark reminder of how one election can shape the fate of a nation. What do you think? Write your opinion and version of the story in the comments below. Please be polite and kind. If you want to know what would have happened if Davis defeated Coolidge in 1924, click on the video on the left. Thanks for watching.